Welcome back to Whiteboard Finance. Today we're talking about how much life insurance do I need? So typically the rule of thumb is 10 to 12 times your gross salary. So say for example, for easy numbers, if you make 100 grand a year, you're going to need about $1 million to $1.2 million in life insurance. However, there are many factors that go into this calculation, so it makes sense to actually go through a life insurance calculator that I found online. So without further ado, let's get right into that calculator. So ultimately what we have here is how much money will be needed for certain things that come up during life depending on what age you pass away at. So very quickly, let me actually backtrack here. The reason I'm passionate about this is because I've seen in my own life, whether it's friends or family, people have passed away prematurely, and it's left certain situations and certain families in a crappy situation, to be honest with you. Obviously, between all the grieving and all the stuff that just happens when someone passes away, finances are going to be messed up if you're not prepared for that death. So I'm not making this video to be a Debbie Downer. I'm making it because I've seen it, and I've also sold insurance in the state of Ohio. So shout out to I will tell anyone that's trying to get into sales, they have their financial representative role. Do not take that internship. All they're doing is trying to get your contacts, and they're pimping you out to sell whole life insurance. What we're going to be talking about is term life insurance. So whole life insurance is when you're actually owning the policy, but there's so many different caveats that I'm not going to go into on this video, to where it's essentially just a payday loan for the middle class. Versus term insurance, where you're actually renting the insurance. So you're paying every month, you have no money going into it, but God forbid when that event does happen, when you eventually do pass away, you will be covered through that term amount. The rule of thumb is 10 to 12 times your actual gross income, but there are little nuances that this calculator helps visualize. So let's go through each one of these and pretend like we're going through an actual scenario. So how much money will be needed for burial expenses? So typically what I've seen, the average is about $8,000 to $12,000, depending on how high end you want to go with the casket and the services and all that stuff. There's a lot of things that go into it. I actually worked for a startup company called eFuneral.com, and we were actually bought out by a publicly traded company. So big shout out to Mike and Brian of eFuneral. I've called every single funeral home in Northeast Ohio, and I know them all by name. I digress. So how many years of income will you need to cover? So let's say, for example, you're a new father. Let's say you're 35 years old, okay, and your kids were just born. Let's say they're 3 and 5 years old. So you need to cover, let's just say, at least through college. So let's just call it a nice even number, let's say 20 years, right? Your kids will be graduating at 23 and 25 years old, so hopefully, they'll be making an income at that point in life. So how much annual net income will your survivors need? So for this example, let's just say we do make $100,000 net, right? So now how much money do we have in savings and investments? Let's say we have $30,000 liquid. Now we did say that we have 2 children. So we have 2 children here. One is 3, one is 5 years old. And how much is needed for future college expenses per child? Let's say $100,000 for each kid. I know I'm going kind of high here, but who knows what college tuitions will be, 10, 15 years from now. Now, is there any one-time expenses you wish to fund? Let's just say no and calculate. So based on these inputs, this calculator is coming up with roughly $1.6 million. So if we go back to that original estimate of 10 to 12 times your net income, we're getting at right around $1 to $1.2 million. This is actually being a little bit more conservative. So for this gentleman, I would take out a policy that is right around $1.6 million. So the reason for that is because, think about it, if you pass away, God forbid, you have your spouse or your partner or whoever else is going to raise those kids, you are basically acquiring your income that you would have made over that time span. So we said 20 years, right? But, we're not accounting for saving it with interest and working on that compound interest that I always talk about. So yes, you can grow that nest egg, but you're really trying to compensate for your obviously passing away and your loss of an income for that family. So again, we mentioned $100,000 in this example. So this person is going to need right around $1.6 million to cover their earning potential over those 20 years. So this is a subject that no one really likes to talk about because everyone thinks they're going to live forever, but I've seen it in real life and it does happen to people and it freaking sucks. But at the end of the day, it's nice to know how much you need to cover. That way your spouse or your significant other and also the children that you're leaving behind are raised properly, or at least to the best of their ability, and they get every opportunity to succeed in life. So thank you so much for watching this video. Like I said, you guys, I'm going to keep these short and sweet, value packed. So please give it a thumbs up. Share this with a person who needs to realize that they do need insurance. Again, go for term insurance, not whole life. Thank you so much, everybody. Check out my stock market course if you have not already. I update that literally daily. I provide nuggets of information and also my own personal portfolio. Thank you so much for supporting the channel and have a prosperous day.